Hi, guys. Welcome back to the baseline. Thanks for watching again. Today, we're going to be talking about the ceasefire lie and how Gaza became a graveyard while the world basically just stood by and watched. We need to talk about this, guys. This is such a difficult thing to watch and see people suffer in the way that they are. But we need to talk about this so called ceasefire in Gaza because what the media is calling a pause, it might be the deadliest illusion we've seen in modern politics, in modern history. And while Western headlines pat themselves on the back for diplomacy, Israeli forces are simultaneously rolling into the West Bank. They're shooting teenagers in the head, and they're dragging families from their home and accelerating the ethnic cleansing campaign in real time. This isn't peace, it's PR. And the worst part is we're all supposed to believe it's progress. So the next few moments, I want to walk through exactly what's happening behind the curtain. Because while the world's attention is fixed on a temporary truce, the machinery of occupation is operating at full throttle. And if you're still watching this, drop a comment. I want to know what you guys think about all this. Do you think this war is going to continue? Do you think this ceasefire is just a gimmick? Your opinion is really important. It matters. Now, the smoke, the mirrors, the murder, let's start with what they're calling a humanitarian pause. The ceasefire began with headlines, and the headlines were on CNN, NBC, Reuters, and it all ran like a global sigh of relief. And you saw words like hope and peace, diplomacy. We all saw those words, right? But here's what didn't make the headlines. While the truce was being brokered, this is hard to talk about, guys. A 14-year-old boy in Jenin was shot in the head by Israeli forces. Entire villages in the West Bank raided. There were mass arrests and checkpoints. They basically turned into military traps. And the settler mobs, armed by the Israeli government, they descended on Palestinian homes, burning fields, destroying property, pushing people off land, beating civilians. It's unconscionable. This isn't a ceasefire. This is a rebranding genocide, and it's happening in real time. And this isn't an anomaly. This is the playbook. Every time international pressure builds, Israel shifts the focus with some version of a pause. And the moment people look away, it escalates right back again. In fact, I think Netanyahu's own cabinet said they would collapse the government unless the bombing resumed in Gaza. Think about that. These aren't peace talks. They're delay tactics at best. And they're delay tactics to reload weapons, to regroup militarily, and reframe the narrative, which is the worst when the wool is just being pulled over so many people's eyes. So let me ask you this directly. Do you believe this ceasefire was real? Comment yes if you think this was diplomacy at work, or comment no if you think that this is a calculated stunt. Let's see where the room is at. Let's see what you guys are feeling, what people are feeling about this. What is the real power structure at play here? That's the next conversation I think we have to have. Let's zoom out, because this isn't just about Netanyahu or Hamas or a 7-day truce. This is about a global power structure and how the United States is not just a bystander in this war. Unfortunately, we could be legitimately labeled as an enabler. Now, Joe Biden in the past has said he's a Zionist. He flies to Israel during an act of genocide to hug Netanyahu. He's done that in the past. We've seen Trump do the same thing in terms of befriending him, but at least in Trump's credit, he's been separating himself from Netanyahu to some degree. Now, billions have been green-lighted, and your tax dollars go to support carpet bombing one of the most densely populated places on earth. Let's be honest here. Both parties in the United States, the Democrats and the Republicans, are aligned on this. This is part of the reason I'll never be part of a team. They just seem so bought and paid for by the same people. And you hear a lot of people saying stuff like vote blue no matter who. But tell me, what do you do when your entire party is backing a genocide, whether it's Republican or Democrat? And that's why we're seeing a historic shift right now. The streets of Washington, London, Paris, Istanbul are flooded with protests. Millions of people, especially young people, this is your world, are saying enough is enough. And if you think that doesn't matter, think again. Because remember this, in 1968, Lyndon B. Johnson couldn't run for re-election, not because of a scandal, but because of the anti-war movement in this country. It turned against him. And today, people are chanting Genocide Joe. They're criticizing Trump. And it's happening all over college campuses. That's not a meme. That's a political reality. So what's driving this war beneath the surface? What are the actual psychological weapons being used to shape political opinion? So what we're going to try to break down is the 5 propaganda tactics the media uses in blinding people to genocide, which seems so obvious that is happening right now. And now to dismantle them one by one, it's harder than ever, right? But we're going to try to break down and dismantle those propaganda things. Now, we're not done. We're just getting warmed up. So hang on tight, okay? So let me show you what the mainstream media won't show you. And it's not just violence from the government. It's a mindset behind the bombs. So back in 2016, the journalist Abby Martin, a great journalist, interviewed everyday Israelis on the street in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, not in war rooms, not in back alleys, just out in the public. And she asked them how they felt about Palestinians. And this is what they ended up saying. And they said it on camera and they said it smiling, right? They stated pretty much, we should carpet bomb Gaza and that they don't belong here and let them go back to Iraq and make a pig out of the Arabs and kill them all. These are the kind of statements that are being made. And it's not a parody. It's happening. It's real. And they're not considered extremists in Israel. So what would make someone feel that comfortable saying those type of things on the record and on camera and with impunity? And the reason they do is because they do have, in fact, impunity. They know they'll never face any consequences. And when you've been told your violence is sacred and your racism then becomes righteousness. And here's the hard part we have to say out loud. This isn't fringe. This is a country where 95% of the population supported the bombing of Gaza in 2014, where 500 kids were killed. What do you think that support looks like now? This isn't about Netanyahu being extreme. The whole political spectrum in Israel has shifted so far to the right that the idea of peace has now become a punchline. So let me know what you guys think. Did you know this was the mainstream opinion there? Let me know what you guys think, what you guys have heard, if this sounds symmetrical to what you guys have been thinking and hearing as well. And if this normalization of this genocide mindset disgusts you, type in sick of it in the comment section. So what is the conspiracy versus the reality? What's actually happening? And let's address the elephant in the room, the conspiracy theories. And we've heard them all. And the ones about Hamas using hospitals, the ones about human shields, the ones about tunneled cities under playgrounds. I'm sure you might ask, is it true? And those are good questions that nowadays I'm asking all the time. Is this actually true? But here's what is actually true. Israel has bombed every single hospital in Gaza. They bombed schools. They bombed churches. They bombed refugee camps. They've killed journalists. You don't have to believe a conspiracy theory. You just got to recognize a pattern of war crimes. And what's crazier than the rumors is the reality. They've bombed medical convoys, left premature babies to die, and arrested children as young as 5 years old. I mean, you heard that right, guys. Israel is the only developed country in the world that tries children in military courts. Some of the prisoners exchanged during the truce, they were kids. And most of them were being held with no charges, no trial. They just disappeared off the street. That's not defense. That's control. That's a system where one side holds all the cards, the land, the air, the water, the movement, and the other side is expected to just endure. It's not reasonable for anybody. What if it happened to us in the United States here, or whatever country that you're from? It's ridiculous. And what's the most ridiculous? The both sides argument that you've heard lately. Let's expose this propaganda. It's nonsense. There are no both sides here. There are war crimes being committed. There's one side that's being occupied, and there's another side that's just wiping out an entire population. So the collapse of credibility, the United States, the law, and most especially the youth vote. Let's try to bring it home, because while all this is happening overseas, there's a battle happening here too, right, in the United States. A battle over truth, a battle over speech, a battle over whether you can even talk about this stuff without being blacklisted. Going back to journalist Abby Martin, she sued the state of Georgia because she was told she couldn't speak at a conference unless she signed a contract saying she would never support the boycott of Israel. Think about that. You can't work in over half the states in this country if you refuse to pledge loyalty to a foreign government. That's how far the Israeli lobby has reached. Through AIPAC, through local legislatures, through campaign donations, people are terrified to speak truthfully. I'm terrified to speak truthfully to some extent. And yet, there's one group who just isn't scared, and that's the youth. And Gen Z, the millennials, I think they're done playing polite with the genocide. And you can see it on college campuses, in protests, in viral videos calling out journalists. And guess what? Everyone knows it. A lot of this stuff is crumbling around us in key states because people think that we're walking away. Now, in Michigan, Arab American voters make up a massive voting bloc. And they've made it clear, like, as far as Democrats are concerned, if there's no ceasefire, they don't get a vote. I think that's why they lost this election so badly, because they stood for absolutely nothing. And I'm pretty sure that Kamala Harris would have just been a puppet for Netanyahu being invited over the White House all the time. At least Trump is snubbing him to some extent. So this is historic because foreign policy is now facing consequences with the youth vote for the future. So what's the takeaway here? No more illusions, right? Why did we do all this? We stopped pretending the ceasefire is a sign of peace. We stopped pretending America is neutral, and we stopped pretending this is so complex. This is not a conflict. This is a colonialism. This is what happens when you give billions and billions of dollars like total diplomatic cover, an unlimited arsenal, and a government that has no intention of ending the occupation. They don't want a two-state solution. They want one state, and that's theirs. And they want Palestinians to either vanish or die trying to resist. So the question isn't, what should Palestinians do? The question ends up becoming, what are we going to do? And now that we know. So if you made it this far, you've already know the answer. I think we have to speak up. We have to post. We got to vote, boycott, organize, because ultimately the truth is the weapon here. And silence, that really is a form of surrender. Thank you guys so much for watching The Baseline again, and we hope to catch you on the next round. All right, thanks again for watching, guys. Cheers, everybody.